So I'm very excited and honored to introduce our next guest with us today, Jill Konrath. She is a well-known thought leader in the sales space, author, strategist, and consultant for many great enterprise companies. But I want to get back to one part of what Jill does that I really love in the sales space, and that's 4 best-selling books that you've written.
Yes.
Over the last several years.
Yeah, it's been a good ride.
Yeah, they're great. And the very first one that really grabbed my attention was Snap Selling, and then most recently, More Sales, Less Time,
right,
which is a book I really, really enjoy. And in fact, I appreciate that book because being in inside sales and being an inside sales leader, I have several young sellers that work for me and often get easily distracted, Jill.
You think so?
Yeah, easily.
Yes. That happens all the time.
2 to 3 screens, I got a cell phone in my hand, and they need insight on how they can do better. So that's the book that I constantly am gifting to my ADMs, and I think it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Jill, I'd like to start talking about some of this, but one of the things that I want to start with that I think about constantly when we have an opportunity to work together is, and actually initially how I got to know you.
Okay.
When I was starting out my career in software, I had done 10 years of medical device and I know that world fairly well, but software was fairly new to me. And you were one of the people I initially really wanted to get to know and to follow, and your content was something that really stood out to me. And I started seeing you at certain events, and I saw you speak at an event, and I thought, this is someone I need to get to know. And we were standing in line, both waiting for a taxi, and I was nervous, thinking, I want to talk to Jill. I wanted to know how much I love her content, and I offered to buy you a taxi ride to the airport.
Yep.
And on that ride, your willingness to just share your thoughts with me and engage and give back to, this exciting young seller, to me was really powerful, and it was meaningful, and it left an impression on me for a long time. So
thank you.
I value that, Jill. Not everyone's willing to do that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's part of my mission.
And what is that? What is that mission?
My mission is really just to help sellers do better. I mean, that's all. I've been very focused for my entire career on helping salespeople achieve their goals and feel good and find their own power and strength in what they're doing. And I especially like helping people who are in organizations that don't have good sales leadership but are motivated, and giving them the tools and the ideas that they need in order to be effective.
Oh, that's good. We need more of that. We need more help with great coaches helping us do better as our frontliners, right?
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions for you. Getting back to the idea of more sales, less time. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yeah. Why did you title it that book?
Why did I title it? I titled it that way because I think that is the driving force that every salesperson wants. How can I do more working less? Or how can I take the same number of hours that I have and accomplish significantly more in that time frame? But I think the underlying reason is because everybody's talking about sales efficiency and sales productivity and how can we drive that. And I wanted to focus on what a single human being could do without the support of anybody else in order to bring in more revenue without working from sun up to sundown.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, for years, you mentioned my book Snap Selling, which is all about selling to crazy busy people.
Right.
Okay. Since that book came out, I had so many people come up to me and say, Jill, this is really helping me sell to the buyers today who are so overwhelmed, but I'm crazy busy too. What do you have for me?
Right.
And I said, I have no idea. I'm feeling the same way. So not only did I see the sales organization struggling, I was struggling with the exact same issue too. And finally, after a couple years, I decided this is stupid. This is a problem that's pervasive everywhere, and somebody has to address it.
Right. And not only did you address it, but what I love you did is you actually put a lot of time into researching it as well.
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time studying neuroscience, cognitive science, psychology, and all sorts of fields around sales, because it's really When I got to the root of it is the real issue is because we're human. I mean, we're struggling, we're distracted all the time, but it's not because we're bad people who lack willpower. It's because we're human beings who are programmed in our genetic makeup to be distracted.
And what are some of the things I think about? I mean, you nailed it, right? We're human. We are inherently distracted by everything around us.
Yes.
What are some of the things that are potentially the pitfalls that cause us as organizations to create more distractions for our sellers, or for us as sellers to distract ourselves?
Oh. Let me just start with the brain, if I could.
Sure.
Okay, because it's really that we have this thing called the amygdala in our brain. It's the oldest part of our brain, and its job is to literally look around the environment, what's new out there. That's its job. And so we live in a digital world, and when you're in a digital world, everything's new. I mean, you go into your email, what do you get?
A million emails, a million pings.
New emails, and do they have links in?
Oh yeah, so many distractions and pathways and rabbit holes.
Right,
yeah.
and then you get an email from LinkedIn, and it's got a good article on how this company is doing that. What do you do with that?
I go dig deeper, and I keep getting distracted.
You go down that rabbit hole, you click on that article,
Right.
you get to that article, and then you see links to another article, you follow that path, and then suddenly you go, I wonder what the weather is like.
Yep.
And then you start going on your device to see what the weather's going to be like this weekend, and then you get on there and they see about the fires in Napa Valley, and so you click to see the fires in Napa Valley, and pretty soon you're reading about Kim Kardashian.
And it's lunchtime.
And you haven't done anything. So this is the world that we live in, and it's designed to be distracted. So knowing that this is what's happening, if you take a look at it from a perspective of the cost, I mean, we are spending so much of our time jumping from task to task. And it's really hurting every salesperson who's doing that, because first of all, it's extending the length of the time it takes to get anything done, which I think is just an overall sales productivity issue. But to me, the even deeper issue is the fact that all this jumping is causing us to not be as good a thinker as we need to be. And if anything, I think that sales is a thinking profession.
Interesting. I would agree with you on that. I think many would say, that sales is a position where they're looking for people who are talkers, right?
Talkers.
People who want
doers.
to be loud
More.
and be closing all the time.
Yes.
But what does it mean to be a thinker? Why is that so important for sellers today?
Okay, first of all, I think number one, because the salespeople are the differentiators. I mean, products are out there. Everybody's got products, and from a buyer's perspective, you can Google anything and find alternatives.
Right.
So what's the difference? The person who deals with them.
Yep.
Now you have one person who comes in and says, "Let me tell you about my stuff." Yap 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 yap, and you have another one who comes in thoughtful and says, "Jake, I've been doing some research on your company. I see you're in this position. I know this has recently happened. I'm wondering how this all relates to, how does this, impact this?" And now you're having a conversation with an interested business person who is concerned about you helping you achieve your objectives.
Right.
That's impressive to the buyer, because now it's about them as opposed to, let me sell my product. But even beyond that, it's about strategy. It's about being prepared, thinking, researching, but it's about strategy and thinking, what is the best way to approach this person? They've got this particular status quo. How can I frame a conversation so that it is worthwhile? I'm up against this company. What are their strengths versus ours, weaknesses versus ours? How do I help the customers understand why we might be a better choice? I mean, there's so many strategic things in there that salespeople have to do, that if they're constantly jumping from task to task, email, down the rabbit hole online, they're not doing their best thinking.
So what I'm actually thinking of while you're saying this, what I'm hearing you saying is, in order to be a thinker, you actually have to be a listener. And in order to be a listener, you can't be distracted.
You can't be distracted.
Right?
Right.
And so we can't be good thinkers and listeners if we have all of our technology drowning us down and all of our rabbit holes in our emails distracting us.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like technology. I think it's been incredible for salespeople, and it's eliminated so many redundant tasks. I love it. And we have to learn how to work in a digital world. That's the challenge.
So how do we do that, right? So we have this problem and it's distracting us, but how do we get better? How do we work efficiently and use this technology to help us be better?
Okay, first thing I'd say is number one, just across the board, we have to realize that we do not have sufficient willpower all day long to keep us in check. We are, we have to realize that we have all these things and they keep presenting themselves to us. So the first thing I say to salespeople is, number one, turn off your notifications. Turn them off, because you don't need to know the score of a football game, in the middle of the day. You don't need to know about the latest shooting. You don't need to know about the latest tweets from the government. You don't need to know about this stuff in the middle of the day. They're not helping you. So block all that. Just turn them off. And I think research shows that 75% of the people have not altered their settings. So they download an app, and the app says, "Do you want to be notified?" And boom, they're notified. So they're distracted all day long. So that's just the simplest thing that we can do. The second thing I think we can do is we can create times during the day when we don't allow ourselves to go online, and we can literally block ourselves using technology, different apps, to block ourselves from being distracted.
Right.
And then we can just focus on setting up our day differently. And I think if you recognize that sales is a thinking profession, then you want your reps to come in during the course of the day, and rather than jump right into email, to sit down and very thoughtfully say, how can I have the maximum impact today? What can I do that will lead to me achieving my goals better? What companies do I need to advance? But to just sit quietly before they get lost in email and identify what is most important and put it on their calendar. Like literally put it on their calendar, because if it's not on their calendar, the time just disappears.
Yeah.
And other people in your company will go, "Oh, Jake's free from 10 to 11. Well, you're not free. That's when you were planning to work on that strategic plan for that company.
So true. It happens to me every day.
Yes, but you didn't fill it in.
No, I didn't.
No, so you have to learn to fill in time for yourself too. Because this is when I'm going to work on this is when I'm going to work on that, so you're blocking time in the day for yourself. That's just traditional, it's like time management in the distraction era.
Yeah. It couldn't be any more true. For the month of October, my wife and I decided to get rid of all social media on our phones. So we deleted all of our apps, and we just decided social media free for the month of October. And I'll tell you, we're a full week into the month of November.
Yeah.
And I have yet to feel tempted or desire to go and re-download those apps. Why? Because the lack of distraction has allowed me to be more involved and more engaged in the tasks that I'm doing.
Yes, and even at home with your kids and family things, you're there.
Right, and being more present, I feel like creates better and more authentic experiences.
Yes, it does.
That's wonderful. I think we need to do better, right?
But see, this is only a thing that's happened in the last 10 years. I mean, this is all related to the iPhone when it came out 10 years ago. This didn't exist like that 10 years ago. And so this technology has come whooshing on us, and we've gotten caught up in the technology, and now it's time for us to step back and say, does this serve me?
Yes.
Does this serve my family? Does this help me really with my job? And the answer in many cases is no. We've just kind of gotten caught up in this addictive nature, and by the way, all those apps are designed to be hugely addictive. Hugely addictive. Intentionally, yeah. I was talking to a guy the other day. He said he got in an elevator on a building he was going up to see a prospect. Got in the elevator. First thing, pulls out his cell phone, checks Facebook. Doesn't have coverage in the elevator. So he puts it back, and by the time he got off the elevator, he was already checking Facebook again because he'd forgotten he'd just checked it 13 floors below. But that's how addictive it is, and we can't do our best job. We can't be present for the people in our lives, like our family, like our clients, like our friends. It's so crucial to get a hold of this technology thing.
So if we get this right? If we work with our teams, our sellers, to be more focused and present and less distracted in what they're doing, what kind of impact can it actually have on a single individual?
Oh my gosh.
And specifically in sales,
Specifically in sales, if you get people sitting down at the beginning of the day and focusing on what is most important, that single thing will get them to do the right things during the course of the day. And as a leader, you can work with them and help them identify some of the right things. You can do that. and get them to think and work that way. If you can get them to set up a schedule during the day where they're going to block out times for different activities that are important, they're going to get a whole lot more work done during that time, and the quality of their thinking is also going to increase.
So
it's powerful.
What's the why, right? Does it move the needle?
Does it? Yes.
Does it?
Absolutely.
And how have we seen impacts? Have any organizations you've worked with that you've actually helped
They haven't been measuring. People don't like to measure stuff
Yeah,
like this. They got enough stuff to measure. But the reality is, research shows you can easily gain 1 to 2 hours a day extra, just in the time factor thing.
I need that.
1 to 2 hours extra. You can go home and be done with work, perhaps, or not check email right before you go to bed, because you really honestly don't need to do that. So the quality of your life goes up. The fragmentation and stress that you're under decreases. If you're trying to learn anything, research shows that if you're constantly distracted and trying to learn something new, it takes 40 to 60% longer to learn it. If you're constantly distracted and trying to remember things, your brain actually files them in a place that you can't access. It's just a function of brain science. I mean, this is brain science. So calmer, more focused.
Yeah, I'd be happy if I could give an hour back to each one of my inside sellers.
Yes.
Right.
What could they do with that extra hour?
With more valuable selling activities.
Right.
We could close more deals.
Right. There's some research out there that says that the average salesperson has between, I think, 22 and 25% of their time is spent actually interfacing with customers. And then there's some additional research that shows that top sellers only spend like 10% more time with customers. Or 30, what was it? It was like 10 hours, and then it got up to 13 hours is what I was looking at. And top sellers have just that much more time focused on customer interfacing activities. They're not jumping and bouncing in there.
Wow.
So it's not huge. I mean, 3 hours a week given back to somebody is the difference between a top seller
Makes
and
a
an
big
average
difference.
seller. Yes.
I would probably argue then that those who have figured out how to get those hours
Bingo.
also have learned how to be more efficient with their time and the activities that they're doing in that time. Yeah.
Yes. I would argue that the top sellers have already said, my time is my most valuable asset.
Yep.
My time is
Yep.
my most valuable asset. I need to look at my day. I need to protect myself from these interruptions. They're not getting me anywhere, and I need to focus on getting the work done. Everybody else is bounce, bounce,
Yeah.
bounce.
I would totally agree. If I had one currency I care about the most right now, it's time.
Time.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we've talked about some of the negative impacts of distractions of technology, but you and your role as a consultant and a strategist, and even us at Adobe with our technology,
Yes.
our focus is to help create velocity,
Yes.
right, in sales cycles. What are some of the things that you're doing that really get you passionate about sales enablement and helping sellers?
Mostly I'm really focusing on the personal aspect of it, because I think the companies that are out there, with your sign, it speeds things up to get a deal in a lot faster. I think you guys are doing good things on that. I think companies like Discover.org or Inside View that are letting people know about trigger events, I think they're
Yep.
doing a great job letting people know about that. I think anybody that can eliminate any redundancies in how we work is spectacular, and they're doing a good job. To me, the part that isn't being addressed is the human aspect, and that's what I'm most excited about, because that's no cost.
Right.
And everybody can do that. Everybody can get benefit of that from that today.
So do you have one tip for all of our viewers and listeners of how to bring more of that human element back into the sales cycle?
Well, the first part of bringing more of the human element back into the sales cycle is to have more time for yourself.
There you go.
To be more human and to protect yourself from all this noise that's out there. Because if you can find the time to focus on yourself and what's important, then you can focus on your customers and how you can make a big difference. But to me, it comes back to, we can't have salespeople out there rushing blindly forward, do, in the more mode. We have to get salespeople who are focused on how can they make a difference and how can they help their customers achieve their goals. But you got to get a little quieter to do that.
Right. It's an interesting concept that getting quieter can actually help us make much more noise and make much more impact, right?
I know.
Jill, thank you so much. This has been really insightful for all of the sales leaders out there, those that follow you and know you, and those who might have just gotten to know of you from watching this. Where can they go to learn more about Jill Konrath, what you're doing, some of the research, your book that I've been talking about, More Sales, Less Time.
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
They go? JillKonrath.com. That's Konrath with a K. That's, all I would say is just go visit my website. I have tons of free resources out there and good things.
Well, thanks for your time, and we appreciate it.
My pleasure.